Blessings everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about number signs, number omens, number synchronicities, with a particular focus on descending number sequences, numbers that are counting down. When we're talking about number signs, these are the numbers that you might notice on a printout. They may show up on a receipt. You might see them on a clock or maybe on a license plate. And wonder exactly, okay, well, how is this showing me a sign or telling me a story? And we're going to talk about numbers a bit more on this channel as time goes on. I had another one I put up a while back on my Son of Selene channel, but I want to dive deeper into all of these different signs and synchronicities. And so just for this video, we're going to talk about descending numbers. Descending numbers themselves will show up in groups of 3, sometimes 5, right? The possibilities are endless there. It's pretty rare to get 9 counting down all the way to 0, but it happens. What you are getting is the reduction, diminishment, and collapse, and therefore transition of a phase, a story, a narrative, a timeline, an involvement, something that you've got going on in your life for however long that has become or has always been oppressive, unhealthy, toxic in some way, and it is going away. This is the countdown, the end of that cycle, the end of that timeline, the end of that involvement, the end of that situation being shown to you. And when we break this up, we can also see what phase in that countdown, that going away, this situation is in. Now, when we are observing these signs and synchronicities, more often than not, we get a little bit confused because we don't know what we're being told about, right? It's like, okay, I just saw this on a printout. I have no idea what this is talking about. I just saw this on the clock. I just saw this on the back of somebody's car. What does this mean? What area of my life? What story is this talking about? That requires some basic introspection, but one of the things that I have found throughout the course of my practice is that more often than not, this is an answer to something that has already been brought to your attention, whether it's an old issue going through a recent development or something new. It's been brought to the forefront of your attention within 72 hours of this omen showing up. So something over the course of the last 3 days that's been brought to your attention. Or it could be a sign about an impending shift that is going to be taking place, and you'll receive news of it within the 3 days following the number sequence, or even the same day of the number sequence. So it's either answering something that has happened within the last 72 hours, right up to the second you saw it, or it's something that's going to be happening within the next 72 hours, right up to the second after you saw it. When we are looking at number sequences like this, it can be tempting to assume that you know what you're being told about right away. And I really caution against rushing to judgment or assuming you know what this or that is, right? Even experienced practitioners, those of us who've been practicing for a long time, know to get quiet, get curious, and wait, but not rush to judgment. And that's absolutely what you want to pay attention to, especially when it comes to descending number sequences. Something bad is going away, which is a good thing. Let's be content with that while we take some time to digest. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it down in groups of 3, 9, 8, 7, 8, 7, 6, and so on and so forth. However, if you notice it's a longer string of numbers, let's say it's 6, 5, 4, 3, then it's going to be a combination of each group. So in that example, if we saw 6, 5, 4, 3, then the message of 6, 5, 4 and 5, 4, 3 are showing up at the same time. It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So we're going to start at the top because we are talking about something that is descending, right? And we're going to start with 987. So 987 is actually a very simple message. It's just very cut and dry. It's the beginning of an end. It is the beginning of an end and the commencing with a transition. Something negative is leaving your life or beginning the process of breaking down and leaving your life. You are beginning the process of leaving something negative behind, or something negative in your life is going through a diminishing or a collapse down to nothing. And so whenever you see this, pay attention. Okay, well, maybe there are a few things in my life this could be talking about, but remember, take it to heart that something that actually is bad, it's a harmful influence, it's hurting me, it's oppressing me, it's working against me, is going away, which is of course very, very good news. 876 is also pretty cut and dry. When we're looking at 876, this is the sign of a collapse in progress starting to speed up. In 876, it's an ending that has already begun, a departure, a collapse of something negative is going to be speeding up here very soon, or it's already begun to speed up. So an end that has already gotten started is speeding up its ending process. 765, we have the situation that is coming to an end, or a situation that is coming to an end. It's well on its way. It's well on its process of decline, is now giving way to its replacement. Maybe things in your life that were kept small or blocked in some way are now free to grow and free to move because there's space for them, and the energy is much more supportive of them because this negative influence, this block or whatever condition it was, again, has shrunk so much and has become so weak it can't block them or keep them out. 654, the situation that is coming to a close, has reached a new low for itself. Now, when I say reached a new low, it's gone to a point of no return. There's no coming back for this thing, whatever it is. And so even if there is a pause in the transition, that 654 is saying, okay, this is the new temporary normal for the situation, right? So it was really, really bad, and now it's much less bad, and it's never going to get worse than this new point. In fact, this is just a break, right? A bit of a plateau, a bit of a breather in this transition. It's never going to get back to what it was. And soon enough, this is going to be going away completely. Sometimes this is something that's reminding you that you are only coming out of a break in a transition. And 654 can indicate, okay, that wait is over and we are completing the transition that already got underway a while back. 543, the new stories, the new situations, the replacements are growing. They're growing in power, they're growing in influence, and their benefit for you. So when 543 shows up, that is where you're going to find that all of the new stories, all of the new commitments, all of the new opportunities, whatever is going on for you, are now getting a powerful boost. Favor has been thrown to the new, and energy is being taken away even more from the old. However, this can sometimes also warn of a conflict that could occur as this all takes place. Not all situations that are meant to disappear go quietly into that good night, even if they are toxic, they're unhealthy, they're negative, oppressive, or blocking us in some way. 543, and when we get to 432, I'll bring it up again as well, can also be a sign of conflict. Conflict as a resistance to the good that is coming into your life from the old that is leaving your life. 432, this is where we see the old collapses hitting or creating a bit of a roadblock. Personally, 432 is my least favorite of these because even though it is giving a good omen that something bad is diminishing and going away, 432, it's kind of like a transition that is stopping short. There is a block to the transition itself that is getting put up. There is something being contained. There is something being thrown off course. There is resistance. This can also be a sign that you need to see where you may have been taking a wait-and-see attitude, where you might need to be more assertive, take more action in a situation where maybe because we've been, a bit more hands-off, roadblocks or obstacles or resistance to this transition have been allowed to get built. You may find that this does bring up conflict in certain areas of your life that you need to pay attention to. Again, resistance coming from the old clashing with the new, but also at the same time, the 4-3-2, as opposed to say the 5-4-3, is telling you where it's your personal responsibility to get involved in this as well, to complete your own transition, because this is something that will eventually work itself out, but it could happen faster, and it could happen in a way where there is a lot less difficulty, a lot less conflict, right? See where we need to kind of speed things up for their own good. 3-2-1, the final stages of this transition, this clearing away of the old, is finally happening, and negative impacts from the story that's going away or negative impacts from the transition process itself are getting reversed. So throughout the course of the situation, sometimes there can be a fair amount of stress, especially when it comes to big moves, big life direction changes, big shifts in, whatever is going on. And 3-2-1 can be a nice saving grace, because it's like, okay, all of the difficulties that you may have incurred from this whole process are getting reversed. The story, the difficulties around it, all of that are coming to a close. They're not going to be able to do any more damage to the situation. They're getting pushed out, whether they like it or not. If there's maybe consciousness there to like or dislike it, it's getting pushed out. This is done, and it's time to start the, reversing of anything that did not need to get marred or damaged or hurt during this process, if it was. A fairly rare one, but one a lot of people need to remember to pay attention to as well, because it is also a descending number sequence, 2-1-0. A lot of people miss this one. A lot of people, I think it just doesn't come naturally to us to think of 2-1-0 as a sequence. We kind of stop at 3-2-1, but 2-1-0, counting down 2 to 1 to 0, is the final descending sequence. And this is a beautiful clean slate omen. It's very similar to 0-0-0. There is a detachment from a lot of the hurts of the self, or even the self that was attached to the old situation that is now gone. And so it's kind of like a big transmutation process that is taking place, where all of the stuff from the old story that, is now effectively gone and done is getting wiped clean from your personal slate. Lastly, we're going to talk about some bonus numbers that you might also not have your mind or your eyes trained to look for as number sequences, because I don't think it naturally occurs to us to look at these as sequences, because now we're talking about cycles and turnovers. And those are numbers 1, 0, 9, 1 descending to 0, and then initiating a new cycle of decline or release, and then numbers 0, 9, and 8. So these very much have a similar meaning to them. And just to keep it brief for the purposes of this video, the end of a narrative, a story, a timeline, or an involvement that you have been maybe enduring and suffering and are now closing is going to precipitate the end of another difficult or unpleasant, unhelpful, or oppressive timeline, narrative, or story, or involvement. A chain reaction, a cascading situation where it's like the end of one bad thing, once it's gone, is already beginning the end of another bad thing. And again, if you are noticing maybe sequences of 5 and not 3, or 4 and not 3, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 8, 7, 6, 5, just remember that you will probably be looking at these in combination with one another, because it's totally possible, right, to have a speeding up of an ending or a transition as well as replacements coming in at the same time if you're looking at like an 8, 7, 6, 5 type of combination. And so just keep that in mind. You know, it can take a while to get used to remembering all these different interpretations. I'll put these in chapters so you can come back for quick reference whenever you want to look that up. But there you go. And I'm just kind of looking over here and I notice on the clock we're after 15 minutes, and I want to make sure that this is just kind of a short and sweet video. We're going to come back and talk more about different signs and number omens as time goes on, but we're just going to let this be for now. Thank you so much everybody for dropping by. If you have any questions, or maybe you would like to find out about a certain number sequence that you've been seeing a lot, or maybe a certain topic you'd like to have me address in a video, please leave a comment in the down bar below and I'll see what I can do. Y'all take care, and I will see you all again soon.